Hi guys, welcome back, and today I'll be doing the next part for, well, not the next part, I'm doing a new what if. I know I've done two new ones recently, but I dropped two ones recently, so it's sort of even everything back out. And this one just came to me randomly during the writing of another script, which is a script I'm sure people are looking forward to hearing the full story of. And of course I'm talking about what if Raditz came to Earth early, and you'll be seeing that shortly, but for now I want to do this. Now, this idea is going to take a little bit of tweaking, so stick with me here. So, first off, a small side note. I will be using pretty much all of the new minus canon, but there is one small thing I've changed from the Bardock special, and one of the key things I've took is his design because it's arguably better. And the small change isn't anything major, but it's just to help the story a little bit. And the other thing I'm changing is how Bardock views the people close to him. People like Gine, Raditz, Kakarot, and even his partner in this timeline are all people he holds closely to him. He's very different from other Saiyans, and this isn't too different from canon. However, this time he feels it a lot more. He feels a deeper connection to them and wants to help them. And with that small change done, let's get going. Now, our story starts pretty much like normal, with Bardock returning back to planet Vegeta. However, in this timeline, instead of it being Leek, who is his partner and teammate, it is the likes of Tora. Tora and Bardock have been doing missions since they were very young. They started doing missions together at a young age. Both being low class, they never expected to get as strong as they are today. And this is mostly thanks to Bardock. Bardock has always had Tora's back in any situation. And this led to Tora wanting to grow stronger to help Bardock. And the two grow a lot stronger from doing this. Now, like normal, Bardock shares his concerns about Frieza and about bringing everyone to the planet, and slowly, like normal, he is piecing things together here, with Tora understanding and almost agreeing with Bardock. Now, Tora asks if the two should turn around in this timeline, just leave the planet and not go there. However, Bardock explains that the likes of Gine, Raditz, and Kakarot are all on the planet right now, and he wants to at least make sure they are alright and off the planet. Plus, their power levels are pretty high. If they were to just turn around, they could possibly be noticed and probably shot out of the sky in space, left to, asphyxiate to death. With Tora sort of nervously laughing, he just hopes that Frieza doesn't, destroy the planet. Things start going like normal, the two travel to go off and see Gine after landing on the planet. Bardock shares his concerns with Gine, and much like normal, the two send Kakarot off into space. This is where we see our change. We see Bardock turn towards his wife, and tells her that she has to leave the planet as well. She's confused, and he explains how her power wouldn't be noticed. She could go off and no one would know anything else. With her asking if Bardock would be leaving as well, Bardock says how if both of them were to leave, his power would probably get them caught. It has to be one or the other, and he wants it to be her. With this said, Bardock hears a thud behind him, turning around to see Tora, carrying another pod and having dropped it. The pair share a nod, and Bardock begins to turn back towards Gine, about to tell his wife to get into the pod. However, just before he can even let out any words, he feels a sudden hit on the back of his head. With him slowly losing consciousness, he turns around and manages to see Tora shaking his hand off, and hears Gine shouting at him, before seeing nothing. With Gine shouting at Tora saying how he didn't have to hit him so hard, and how he didn't have to resort to that. With Tora not listening to what she has to say, he picks up his friend's body and starts putting him into a pod. Gine still shouting at him, Tora finally says something back. You know why I helped you, right? Gine shakes her head, having no idea why Tora even agreed to this. It's very unsaiyan-like to want to save someone like Bardock just did. Ever since I'd been going on missions with Bardock, he'd always had my back. Whether it was on missions, around elites, regardless of the situation, he had my back. So, just once, even if he doesn't want it, I want to help him. Plus, if Frieza does destroy this planet, Bardock won't rest until he gets revenge for us, for the race. So, whether he wants to or not, he needs to be the Saiyan out of us three that survives. You would probably just go on to live a peaceful life. I would probably cower away from the fight or never get strong enough. Bardock's different though. He has it in him. I'm sorry I had to knock him out, but I did warn you this might have to happen. So did you make the recorded message like I asked of you? Gine nods and puts the device into the pod on Bardock's lap. With this said, Tora starts setting the pod to head off towards a planet where Gine and him had discussed sending Bardock to, knowing that no one will bother him while he's on this planet. With this done, Bardock rockets off into the sky. The pair watch nervously, hoping that Bardock won't be noticed, and with a bit of luck, he is soon out of sight. The pair head off and just get back to whatever they can do, while hoping that Frieza doesn't destroy the planet. However, much like normal, planet's Vegeta destruction happens, with nothing to change here. However, there is one small change of Tora fighting off Frieza this time. He probably does just as well as Canon Bardock, being as though him and Bardock are stronger than from Canon, so nothing to note there. Now, after about a month of travel of Bardock being unconscious, having slept his entire journey, he enters the atmosphere of a planet, and this makes the ship rattle dangerously. Doesn't wake the sleeping Saiyan just yet, however, the crash he makes into the planet does, with Bardock grabbing his head and slowly climbing out of the ship he had landed in. All he can see is green, and as he pulls himself fully out of the pod, he sees a device that falls to the ground. Grabbing it, he recognizes it as a recorded message and clicks it, which is when a message from Gine starts playing. Hiya, Bardock. I guess if you're hearing this, me and Tora went through with our plan. After hearing what you said about possibly Frieza destroying the planet, we needed to do something. We met just before we sent Kakarot off in space, and we both agreed that you needed to be saved. Tora had his reasons, and I had mine, but we just wanted to make sure you lived. You had helped us so much in your own way, and we wanted to help you this once. Now, hopefully Frieza doesn't destroy the planet, and this will lead to you being able to come back soon, but as for now, we want you to lay low. I'm sorry we had to do this, but I can at least help you in some way. You're on a planet called Namek, which is full of peaceful beings from what we heard. However, some of them can be quite strong, so be careful. Stay hidden for a year before checking the planet. Hopefully, we'll still be here. I love you, Bardock. Thank you for everything. Bardock hearing this, he almost breaks out in tears, unsure of the fate of his wife, his planet, his race, his family, his friends. He's in a rush of emotions, and he gets ready to turn back around and leave the planet on his ship. However, he comes face to face with a giant green man, who is sat on the same pod watching him. The likes of the giant looks at Bardock, and Bardock pulls himself to his feet, taking a fighting stance, but the Namekian shakes this off. I can tell you're in no state to fight. You're not mentally or physically on my level just yet. Before smirking, and the Saiyan doesn't really back down. He begins to throw a flurry of punches at the Namekian, who dodges everything thrown at him. And with this done, the Namekian lands one chop on the back of Bardock's neck, with the Saiyan muttering, "How not again," before falling unconscious. With the Namekian seeing this, he picks up the Saiyan pod with one hand and grabs Bardock with the other, flying off towards a massive building on a cliff. With the likes of Bardock waking up only about an hour later in a strange place with a giant Namekian in front of him, the Saiyan gets ready to fight once again. However, after seeing the Namekian who just put him down, he takes a bit more of a passive stance, with the giant Namekian sort of laughing and introducing himself. He explains how he is Guru, the elder of this planet, and sort of the leader. And right now Bardock is being judged on whether he is to be treated as a threat and killed, or if he can be allowed to live. With Bardock confused at how this Namekian knows his name, Guru says how he has read his mind, trying to figure out if he is a kind being or an evil threat, and they need to figure out if they should deal with him. Bardock thinks to himself how surely he is evil. After all, he's killed hundreds, but Guru says how inside of the Saiyan there is a lot of turmoil. There is a lot of evil in him, yes, but there is a massive capacity for good, and if treated correctly, he could be brought to the right side. Bardock is almost in tears from laughter. He's never heard of something so outrageous. A saiyan? Good? And just laughs. Before brushing this off, saying how they won't need to vote. And he just needs to be left to return to his ship so he can head back to his home planet. With Nail, who had knocked him out earlier, saying how unfortunately that won't be happening. The Namekian goes on to say how his ship was damaged in the crash, so he might be stuck here for a little while. Bardock's sort of shocked and annoyed. He doesn't believe it and wants to head off to see his ship for himself. He gets ready to leave with the likes of Nail stepping in front of him, and Guru saying how if Bardock's ship is truly damaged, he can pass a test of his, purge all the darkness in his heart, and they will give him his own ship. And that is all Guru says. Bardock, not really caring, pushes Nail to the side, with Guru confirming with Nail if what had actually happened to Bardock's ship is true. He explains how he was telling the truth. Bardock walks outside and sees his ship, pretty banged up, and grabs it and flies off. Nail, after sensing that Bardock had left, asks Guru why he's giving a murderer a second chance, with Guru saying, "When I read his mind, I could see the situation that brought him here. I could almost feel the purity in the hearts of one of those Saiyans. He does have the chance to be pure. However, it almost seems that he isn't allowing it to show. Maybe it's something to do with pride that we Namekians just don't understand. Or maybe he feels that after everything he had done in his life, being good just isn't in him, and he doesn't deserve a second chance. However, if we could get him to join the side of good, he would be a powerful ally." With Nail taking this in, he remembers that Bardock listened to a recorded message when he first arrived, some woman saying speaking to him. Nail wonders what he thought of everything, trying to figure out what might be going through Bardock's head right now. Nail decides that giving Bardock space is probably for the best, however he doesn't want to leave him too close to his people. So Nail takes up the task of warning all villages that there is a Saiyan on the planet. Even though most of the elders in the villages knew, this is just a more informative warning. Then Nail spends the next few days tailing Bardock, just making sure he's up to nothing. And with a few days going by, we see Bardock has moved into a cave, having set up his own sort of base there. Currently, he's trying to repair his ship, and it isn't really going anywhere. Keep in mind, he has no tools, supplies, or idea of what he's doing. In fact, he's probably making things worse, with him being annoyed after trying to fix it for a few hours. He decides that he's hungry and heads out to start hunting for some food. With him sick of eating frogs, he decides to go off and hunt for some fish. And while he's out hunting, he is in a bit of a turmoil in his head. He realizes that without supplies, he won't be able to fix his ship. Without tools, he won't really be able to do much else. He has no real way of getting off this planet without the deal that old Namekian made with him. And slowly, while hunting, he comes to terms with the fact that he might have to take this deal. Even though he doesn't believe he can be pure, he will have to try. It might be his only way off this planet. After all, that Namekian who knocked him out definitely has the ability to kill him, so this isn't a fight he wins. After being on the planet for a few days, he's learnt that there is no moon, so he can't even go Great Ape to, try and win the fight. He's pretty much stuck, unless of course he takes this deal. Now, after a while of hunting and eating, he heads off towards Guru's house. He thought of some terms he wanted to make, and, making his experience a lot easier on the planet. And he walks into Guru's house, where he walks in telling the giant Namekian that he will take this test. However, he plans on being no hero, and he just wants a way off this planet. Guru, not minding this, tells Bardock what his test is. "You will have to purge your heart of evil within you. Whether this takes you days, months, years. As long as you do that, I will get you your ship." Bardock's confused at how he will do this, and demands an explanation on how he could possibly do this. However, Guru explains that he can't help him with this. Everyone will discover their own way differently, so this is something Bardock will have to do on his own. Bardock, hearing this, decides that he needs something out of this at a minimum. He adds that if he's taking this test, he wants some things from the Namekians. He wants a place to live of his own, away from a village. He wants someone who he can fight with to get some training in. And finally, he wants that Namekian who had been tailing him for the last few days to leave him alone. Guru shouts out for Nail, and Nail walks in. Bardock looks towards Nail, saying how if you're going to track someone, make sure it's someone who doesn't have military background. With Nail impressed to hear that Bardock was pretty much aware of him the whole time, Guru says to Bardock that he can meet all those requirements and introduces Nail as Bardock's training partner. Nail smiles at the thought of getting to push Bardock around a little bit, and Bardock isn't too bothered. With a day passing and Bardock getting his new home on the outer side of a village, you can see him having moved in his ship and having a bed and stuff in there now. He is just settled in, and this is when Nail shows up. He is being told by Guru to try and help Bardock become pure in any way possible. So the pair get ready to come into a routine. They first spend the first 2 weeks just doing physical training, sparring with one another, and after those 2 weeks, Nail gets a good understanding of who Bardock is and how he works, and actually realizes that Bardock is kind of different from other Saiyans. And with this done, Nail thinks that maybe meditation would be a good way for Bardock to purify himself. And once this is introduced to Bardock, he doesn't really like the idea, however, he goes through with it. The two spend a few hours a day meditating, with Nail finding this easy to relax himself and center himself, whereas Bardock struggles, as the moment he isn't thinking of fighting or trying to repair his ship, he finds himself thinking of his home planet, the people who have likely died, but he mostly finds himself thinking of Gine, Raditz, Kakarot, Tora, people he cared for, thinking about how they were very likely killed, how they could be dead, how he possibly could have saved all of them if he just warned more Saiyans. Maybe he could have stopped Frieza, but maybe his planet's still there. He hopes and desperately believes they are all alive. However, because he can't find out, it leads to him not ever being able to clear his mind. Nail, after a week seeing not much progress, with Bardock really not changing during this training of meditation, after a week he turns back to just sparring and decides that he's going to have to try and get to know the Saiyan better. So during these next few weeks, he is taught how to sense ki and suppress energy. With Bardock learning how to do them in less than a week, this leads to Bardock trusting Nail a little bit, and the start of a friendship is beginning to form. Two spending the next 2 months training with one another. Most of the time they will be spent sparring with one another. However, the likes of the two will sometimes spend a few hours a day meditating, with Nail trying to see what Bardock can do, see if he can push past whatever's blocking him. However, whenever Bardock spends his time meditating, he just uses his new ability to sense ki to try and find Planet Vegeta. Miles and miles away it is, he knows this, however he tries his best, and for the better part of 2 months, he can't find anything. Bardock soon comes to the realization that it's either gone, or it's just too far for his ability. So Bardock leaves the whole meditating thing behind for a while. One day, while the pair are training, Bardock isn't really paying attention, and this leads to the likes of Nail landing a good hit on Bardock, with Nail sort of laughing, saying how if he isn't paying attention, the Saiyan will get killed. However, Bardock lays on the floor, and he doesn't get up, saying how he isn't sure what happened to his race, and this stupid training is getting him nowhere, and right now, he just needs to be alone. With Bardock getting up, he heads into his house to try and fix up his ship a bit more, after having been given some tools by Nail, who had warmed up to the Saiyan quite a lot. Nail now sees what might be stopping Bardock from purifying himself, what's blocking his vision. He flies off, heading towards Elder Guru, knowing of a way that maybe could help Bardock. With him arriving at Guru's place, the elderly Namekian wonders why Nail is back so early, with Nail explaining what he's been going through with Bardock, explaining how he believes there's a way he can help Bardock. He has to give him closure on what happened to his race, what happened to his planet, with this maybe being the thing that can help him grow, and Guru thinking that it might not be a great idea. After all, if he was to get angry, he could lash out. However, Nail, who knows the Saiyan the best, explains how it will help. He knows this. Guru understands and puts his full faith into Nail. And when Bardock sleeps, the pair start gathering the Dragon Balls. Well, it's mostly Nail doing it. And eventually, the Namekian warrior makes a wish on the Dragon Balls, summoning forth Purunga. And a small side note, Nail would have never told Bardock about the Dragon Balls. He believes that if he was to find out, he might do something terrible. So for now, it's best to leave it like this. With the Namekian making a wish on Pronga, asking what was the fate of planet Vegeta, the home planet of the Saiyans. Pronga explains what happened with Frieza, to the planet, and to the race. Nail is terrified of hearing this. He was hoping that maybe the planet was still there. This would be what would help Bardock. However, with it not there, he now has to tell Bardock the terrible fate which happened to his planet. He thinks fast and wonders if there's any more Saiyans alive. He wishes to know if any Saiyans are around. Pronga explaining there is. There is 8 Saiyans alive, including Bardock. Hearing this, Nail knows what his next wish needs to be. He asks for the names of the Saiyans who survived the destruction on planet Vegeta, and Pronga lists off this name: Goku, Raditz, Vegeta the Fourth, Nappa, Tarbell, Broly, and Paragus. With Nail hearing this, he thanks the dragon before trying to figure out how to break the news to Bardock. With him seeing the Saiyan the next day, Bardock has clearly gotten into a better mood and is actually a bit more chipper today, clearly getting some stuff off his shoulders yesterday. With him actually welcoming Nail and getting ready to get into their normal sparring routine. However, Nail isn't his normal self. He just hasn't got it in him to lie to Bardock. After all, like I said, Nail had grown fond of Bardock, and this leads to him explaining what happened to Planet Vegeta. And Bardock, after hearing his whole race had died, feels a rush of emotions. At first, he feels sadness, as he didn't save the people he loved and cared for, not yet knowing how Raditz and Kakarot had survived. But then he feels a rage, a massive amount of rage. He knows who did this. He knows who killed his family. The person who killed his people, the person to blame. It was Frieza. Without warning, Bardock lets out a massive burst of energy and rockets off towards the Elder Namekian's house. With Nail worrying now, he rushes off after him. With Bardock not taking long to arrive at Guru's place, he walks into the room, demanding the old Namekian give him a ship right now, so he can go deal with that monster Frieza. With Guru shaking his head, saying how he had not met the requirements they had agreed upon. With Bardock having still a lot of rage in him, he says damn to the requirements. That monster killed my people. I need my revenge. With Guru telling Bardock to take a moment and think, he is nowhere near strong enough to beat Frieza. Its current mentality, his power, was nothing compared to him. Guru had been keeping tabs on Frieza. After all, he can probably sense a key as big as Frieza's out in the distance. He's probably kept tabs of Frieza after having read Bardock's mind, so he knows where Bardock stands against Frieza. Guru says how, even if he had passed the test, he still wouldn't allow Bardock to act on his current rage. It would just lead to him being killed by Frieza. And once hearing this, Bardock takes a breath. He calms down a little bit. Even though meditation hadn't gotten him anywhere, well, mentally really, it calmed the Saiyan down just a small bit. He's now understanding that he is just acting on instinct and he has to calm down. With Bardock having acted very differently to how he would have acted just a few months ago, Bardock understands that even though he's been training intensely, he is nowhere near Frieza's level, and if the rumours about him being able to transform are true, he just doesn't even stand a chance. With Bardock taking time to cool down, Guru is encouraging the Saiyan to take a moment, and almost praising him for taking this chance. Bardock is thinking to himself how he needs to concentrate on passing this test, and acting out now won't be how to get anywhere. While doing this, Nail flies into the room behind Bardock, shouting at the Saiyan who he believes could be doing something he will regret. However, he can see Bardock is just taking a moment to center himself. With Bardock getting his composure back, in his own Saiyan way he apologizes to the Guru before turning around to see Nail. He gives the Namekian a glare and gets ready to fly off. However, something the Namekian says does catch Bardock's attention. Nail explains how some Saiyans survived other than himself, how there is nearly 7 of them out there. With Bardock interested, he turns around and asks does he know the names. He does, but he doesn't know the locations. He begins listing off names, and Bardock clings on to every name that's said. He lists off people called Broly, Paragus, Raditz, Vegeta, the Fourth, Nappa, Tabo, and someone called Goku, who have all survived the attack. All these Saiyans are alive. Bardock is never been so happy to hear the name of his son, but he's upset to hear that Tora, Gine, and Kakarot weren't mentioned. This sort of destroys Bardock. However, Nail apologises for everything Bardock had lost, saying how he will help him grow as strong as he can if he wants. But please pass this test first. It will help you not only get stronger, but find a way to defeat Frieza. With Nail clearly having left a good effect on Bardock, the Saiyan says how they will still be training today, with the pair flying off. Bardock is already forming a plan, and he knows what he has to do. His first step is to pass this test and get off this planet, and also become stronger. His second step, to travel the galaxy, find and collect the surviving Saiyans, while maybe picking up some techniques along the way. And finally, the last step would be to take down Frieza. Get revenge for his race. It's the only way. And this is where I'm leaving this part. So I hope everyone enjoyed this. I don't know how it will be responded to. I'm not really sure, but I'm happy to play around with Bardock as much as possible because I think he's cool. And if you don't think Bardock's cool, are you a true Dragon Ball fan? Now, I don't really know what to say here. This is the first time I've actually got a script for an outro in a while, so that's fun. But I do already know where this story's going to a massive level, and I'm looking forward to playing with it a lot more. But if people want to see more of this, you have to let me know. Leave a like on the video. I am actually setting a like goal for the first time ever on my channel, and I'm going to say around 100 likes. I'll obviously give or take. If it's like just off, I will push it up, and it will continue. But with this said, I do hope everyone enjoyed. I hope you all have a great day, a wonderful night, and I'll hopefully see you next time.